I spent 12 hours in Lumiose City. Here's what I discovered. In case you somehow missed it, Pokémon Legends ZA dropped this past week, which means I and basically everyone else has been exploring the streets of Poke Paris all weekend long. Now, I didn't want to blast through the game as quickly as possible, so I could give you a full breakdown of every last thing. When I play Pokemon, I like to take it slow and work my way through the game methodically, fighting every single Pokemon and secret that I can along the way. And naturally, I want to do the same thing in Legends ZA. The previous Legends game, Legends Arceus, is one of my favorite Pokemon games of all time, so I have really high hopes for ZA, especially because we return to one of my favorite regions, the Kalos region. Now that I have the actual game in hand, I can easily tell you that I've been having an absolute blast, and I want to bring you a lot with me through my first 12 hours in Lumiose City. Obvious spoiler warnings ahead, but I still feel like I'm only scratching the surface of what this game has to offer. So, without further ado, let's explore Lumiose. After playing around with an actually pretty detailed base character customizer, the game immediately starts off by setting up some of its central mysteries. The Lumiose Tower bursting alight while three shadowy figures meet at its base, all three of which seem pretty obvious if you've been watching the trailers. You even have a version of an Eternal Prison, one of the best tracks from Pokemon X and Y, playing when a certain someone and his partner Pokemon walk on screen, claiming that the quote, strongest Mega Evolution user must be found. Which honestly kind of reminds me of Alon from the anime, so that was pretty much his whole goal, but you know, whatever. What makes this opening even more interesting is that we see this literally from someone else's point of view. Something was looking at the tower from above before it dropped out of the sky and witnessed what came next. And from there, we transfer from what I can only imagine is a similar something's POV as we see a train on its way to Lumiose. Only for that thing to hop into the player character's bag. I play Pokemon games for the lore and the world building. Heck, I've even made videos arguing about why I think Pokemon has some of the best world building and lore in all of gaming. So this opening cutscene was enough to have me instantly hooked. It's even kind of a departure from a standard Pokemon affair, which likes to use the Professor monologue to get things started. And we actually do still get one of those, by the way. Immediately after stepping out of the train, we meet our rival. Since I am a dude, I have Tawny as a rival, and I have to say, even though I haven't beaten the game yet, she might be one of my favorite rivals of all time. Maybe it's the fact that I'm just so excited to play a new Legends game, or maybe it's the fact that the characters in this game are hitting new levels of expressiveness and emotiveness for the Pokemon series, but I just cannot help but find Tawny absolutely adorable and endearing. I assume her dialogue is the same if you have Urbane, but either way, these two are a great addition to the Pokemon cast. Tawny is the one who is your true introduction to the game. She is apparently recruiting tourists to come stay at Hotel Z and spots us for the out-of-towner that we are. After being interrupted by the Professor monologue I mentioned earlier, this time given by Jet of the Quasartico Corporation, fun fact, she uses a Skiddo in her intro, which is the exact same Pokemon Sycamore used in his intro back in X and Y. Tawny watches our bag, and presumably, all of our earthly belongings get swiped by a Pancham.
What's this? Yes, it snagged it. Like a snag machine for Pokemon Coliseum X gives Arceus.
After a short chase, we run into Pancham's trainer, who challenges us to a battle, and Tawny gives us our starter option. I went with Tepig due to my long-standing tradition of always choosing the fire-type starters. Long story short, we beat the Pancham, but it apparently takes us so long that night falls, revealing the ZA Royale does not care if you're an innocent civilian or hardened veteran. They take the when trainers lock eyes thing seriously in Kalos. Tawny tries to lead us away from the action, but apparently muggings have gotten really bad in France recently. Luckily, a goth Floette shows up and does the father-son Kamehameha, which scares off the would-be assailants. Now that's out of the way, Tawny can take us to Hotel Z, which for all intents and purposes is our base of operations for the game. The hotel's proprietor is a 9-foot-tall giant, and no one ever really comments on its height, which is really weird to me, but okay. Tawny does say she doesn't believe he's 3,000 years old like he says, but of all the odd things about him, that seems the least implausible to me. Then again, I also watched him nuke Spain, and Tawny didn't, so, you know, what do I know? AZ gives us a room for free. which is not how hotels work. Apparently, someone did not spend any of the 3,000 years of his life getting a business degree. He also comments, not to our face, only to Floette, that a trainer showing up with a Zygarde cell is odd and wonders if Lumiose requires our help. This is another weird mystery that I am fascinated to know more about. AZ repeatedly comments about the needs of Lumiose. He talks about it like the city is an independent organism with a will of its own. I'm still too early in the game to know if this is just an odd dialogue choice or if he's referring to some actual entity. Reminds me a lot of the almighty Sinnoh, which is the odd way that the Pearl and Diamond clans referred to Arceus in Legends Arceus. I mean, I just gotta know what's up with it. Tawny officially recruits us to help her and her crew, Team MZ. If you're curious about the name, like I was, it apparently comes from Mega Evolution and Hotel Z. So, there you have it. She wants to help AZ with whatever he's got going on, be it the hotel or his greater concerns for Lumiose. Our shenanigans last night were apparently noticed by the corporate surveillance state that is Lumiose City, so we also get a formal invitation to participate in the ZA Royale, a giant tournament containing all the city's trainers. At this point, Tawny takes us out to do the whole trainer tutorial segment, starting with a battle. We see here one of the reasons Tawny really stands out to me as a rival. She uses both of the other starters. She owned all three of them and gave us one. No professor was involved, and she will keep using both of them through the whole game too. I'm not at the end, but I've gone long enough to see her team fleshed out a bit, and she does continue to use both starters. If you're worried about a rival who is a total pushover in battle because their starter is weak to your starter, worry no more. This time, the rival can and will counter you. Heck, since Mega Evolution can be used multiple times in battle, I suppose she could even Mega Evolve both of her starters. I should probably spend some time talking about the true hallmark of the game, what it's really all about. The battle system. ZA features a first for the franchise, with real-time battles, so you have to actively direct your Pokémon through the whole battle, telling it what move to launch and when. You can even direct it around the battlefield. Moves have cooldowns, so you can't just spam your best attacks over and over again. This is all stuff we knew going in, it's all over the trailers, but now that I actually play it, what are my thoughts? And honestly, it's pretty dang good. I don't think I've fully mastered the complexities of it yet, and I am definitely making a lot of stupid decisions, but it's still really fun. Well, it definitely takes getting used to, especially if you had just played a more traditional Pokemon game mere hours before playing this one for the first time like I did. It feels like a natural evolution, pun intended, of the Pokemon formula, especially after Legends Arceus' turn order gameplay. One thing I found early on is that it actually makes your moveset choices radically different from a standard Pokemon fight. Take the first tutorial fight against that Pancham. Normally in this sort of battle, I just spam my starter's one attacking move until the battle was over. This time around, I spent time launching Tail Whips because why not? I had to wait for my tackle to recharge anyway, so I might as well get some defense drops while I'm at it. When picking moves for your team at later levels, it even changes how you want to think about things. For a playthrough team, I'm usually concerned with having a wide variety of high-powered attacking moves of different types to give me the maximum amount of options in battle, while also adding the occasional status effect or setup move, depending on the Pokemon in question. In ZA, I'm actively doubling up on moves of the same type on one Pokemon, because while one might be extremely powerful, the cooldown means that I might not always have the move online when I need it to be. I've been including weaker moves that I normally throw out early because those moves usually have much shorter cooldowns, meaning that I can use them more often. You could potentially do more damage from a weaker move over the course of an entire battle than a strong move for the same type. It also definitely provides a challenge. I nearly lost my first promotion match in the ZA Royale, partially because I stupidly kept my Tepe in against a Slowpoke, but also because I didn't realize how much damage the opponent could do versus how much I could do in the same time period. Even catching Pokemon offers more of a challenge. Just like with Legends Arceus, you could sneak up and backstrike guys, but some Pokemon are really good at seeing you and many of them are hostile. There aren't any sticky globs to throw at them this time. You have to battle them, and since hostile Pokemon often come in packs and usually target the player, be prepared to book it at a moment's notice to save your own skin. Back in the story, Tawny takes us through the standard Pokemon game tutorial stuff. If you've played a Pokemon game before, much of this section is going to feel very hand-holdy and very basic, but it is kind of standard in the Pokemon games at this point. Don't worry though, the mandatory tutorial stuff does taper off very hard pretty fast after about an hour or two in the game. We get introduced to Wild Zone, which is where wild Pokemon are. I mean, who would have thunk it? And are forced to catch a fletchling and a bunnelby to teach us the catching mechanics. We're also told to catch at least 2 more because if we fill up our Pokédex app with 5 entries, we get a prize. This is mandatory, by the way. Luckily, there are 4 more Pokemon that can be easily caught in the wild area. After that, we head to the Pokemon Research Lab and talk to a former domestic terrorist. Mabel is filling in for Professor Sycamore, who we can find pictures of on the wall. I don't know if he shows up later, but I have not seen him yet. I hope he does. Mabel gives us a TM for Rock Smash and basically demands that we do tasks for her, namely help fill in the Pokédex. Apparently, she's being pressured by the city's mayor for accurate Pokemon information during this whole Lumiose redevelopment plan thing. Completing her tasks, which usually consist of catching various types or catching everything from certain wild zones, is pretty simple, and you'll probably end up doing a lot of it just by playing the game. But for doing it, you get a ton of useful TMs, which don't break in this game, so use them as much as you want. The TM for Rock Smash is actually pretty important because HMs are back. Kinda? You see, there are roadblocks and obstacles all over the city. We see the first pretty early, the random roaming street boulder. They can be smashed apart by Rock Smash, which, conveniently enough, the Bunnelby we caught earlier can learn. Except it doesn't have to be Rock Smash. In what is one of my favorite decisions ever made in this franchise, Pokemon decided that the ability to use a move outside of battle does not have to be limited. I haven't experimented enough to guarantee this, but it largely seems to work based on the type of the move. When my Tepig eventually evolved into a Pignite, it learned Power Up Punch, which functioned exactly like Rock Smash when used on the boulders. This applies to other roadblocks as well. There are these piles of sludge that can be eroded with Panpour's Water Gun or Dragonair's Whirlpool, and these bramble thickets can be burned away by Ember or Flamethrower all the same. This does so much for the player's immersion. When I first saw those sludge piles, I assumed I would probably have to wait until someone told me how to get rid of them. But then I used my head and I did what I felt was logical for the situation. Wash the gunk away. How would I, a Pokemon trainer, do that? Simply use the water Pokemon at my disposal. I was rewarded for exploration and experimentation, which is something the series hasn't always been able to allow. The world does begin to expand pretty rapidly at this point. While we are still largely being railroaded for a bit longer, we can push our boundaries a lot more as things continue. Tawny walks us through our first promotion match. Essentially, we have to beat enough trainers to build up points that can be redeemed for a battle against a special promotion match trainer. And if we win, we get to go up a letter grade. We start at rank Z, so there's a bit of a trek to go. After the battle, we briefly meet Emma, a very minor character from X and Y, but was also integral to one of my all-time favorite post-game quests. Looker, I miss you. Funnily enough, she already knows Tawny. One thing that I discovered pretty quickly is that there are a lot of Pokemon that can be encountered outside of wild zones. This is one thing I was really worried about when I got to the first wild zone. Much of the fun of Legends Arceus was finding Pokemon in all sorts of hidden corners and little hidey holes, so it would have felt extremely limiting if wild Pokemon were only in these specific holographically fenced-in areas. Luckily, that's not the case, and there are all sorts of Pokemon waiting to be found across the city. At one point, Tawny stops us for coffee at this one food truck with a Charizard, and people that I'm gonna assume are also former domestic terrorism grunts. Here we meet Vinny, the secretary to Jet, Quasartico's CEO. Tawny already knows this guy too. I know I'm harping on Tawny a lot, but dang, they've really given her a lot of personality and character relationships early on. It's just kind of fascinating. We briefly see a karate guy named Ivor, who I'm guessing is somehow related to Karina, the fighting gym leader from X and Y, and we have to fight one of his acolytes. He's apparently going on about how he wants to tear down the wild areas because he thinks Pokémon should be able to roam the city freely. I should mention, winning the ZA Royale means that Quasartico will grant you one wish that is within their power to do so. Then we work our way through the city a bit more until we get to the Looker Bureau, where we meet up with Emma and her Esper Mimi. It's good to see you, old friend. Here we learn about side missions, and I really hope I don't have to explain that sort of concept to you. What's really interesting about them though is how many of them seem to follow a certain theme. They're usually about how people and Pokemon in the city are struggling to interact properly. For instance, Emma gives us a few that we're actually required to do to illustrate the concept. One of these features an old woman who had her ring stolen by a Sableye while she was visiting the cemetery, which was turned into a wild zone. She's naturally upset about both the ring and the cemetery being overrun with wild Pokemon, and we had to solve at least the first of those problems. Another side mission down the line was about a chessman who loved to battle but kept attacking a taxicab. I mentioned that one because you have to battle it yourself, and it wanted to battle like 5 times in a row, and I one-shot it each time. That was just amusing to me. A running theme of this game seems to be that all these changes to the city that are supposed to be bringing people and Pokemon together aren't necessarily accomplishing that. Once we beat those side missions for Emma, she shows us what Mega Evolution looks like by Mega Evolving an Ampharos. We also learn that Tawny has contracted Emma to look for someone for her, which is definitely noteworthy. From here, we're told to focus on working our way up in the ZA Royale, and the Kid Glyphs are really kind of off at this point, and Lumiose truly opens up. It is one of the few cities in a video game that I feel like has truly earned the designation of city. The map is pretty big, and there are all sorts of hidden alleys and secret hideaways. The whole map can be explored basically right off the bat at this point. In order to allow for some pacing with the Pokemon variety, they don't open up every single wild zone at this point. More are added as you progress through the story, but the city itself is still open. Even those areas that become wild zones can still technically be visited. The day-night cycle also fully asserts itself by this point in the game. During the night, a specific area of the city is designated the Battle Zone, and you can encounter trainers galore there. You can battle them, get the points needed for your Challenger's ticket, and then challenge your promotion match trainer. You can battle promotion matches at any time of the day, but the trainers you need to beat to get there are only around at night. Honestly, exploring the city feels awesome. There are all sorts of hidden paths and details that you can go hunting for. There are shops that sell all sorts of useful items, there are cafes and restaurants where you can relax with your Pokemon or even battle with them. There's even a museum you can check out. You know, at some point down the line, I'm gonna have to revive my video game museum review videos just for this place. I still have a ton of big things to explore and areas of the map I've only done a couple pass-bys. There's just so much to see and do in this game, and most of it is accessible after that conversation with Emma. There are definitely some traversal unlocks down the road that I haven't gotten yet. There was a double jump seen in the trailers that I can't do yet, and I'd be extremely surprised if I can't navigate the city's canals and water channels at some point. After each promotion match, you do meet up with the rest of Team MZ, and you discuss whatever's currently going on, which is a pretty good opportunity for some team bonding and endearing you to the rest of your team. Lita is almost guaranteed to be related to Tierno. I can't prove it definitively by the point of the game that I'm currently at, but I know she's got a big brother, and I know she loves to dance. Naveen, our fashion designer friend, seems to not like battling, and is only hanging out at Hotel Z because he had a fight with his grandmother over fashion design versus academics. He's also a simp for a streamer, so that's neat. Honestly, I really like these guys. They've got fun designs and pretty interesting personalities. They aren't really one note like the last time we were in Kalos. Here's the thing about basically every single thing I mentioned, though. All of that was in the first half of the 12-hour allotment I gave myself to play the game before making this video. At the 6-hour mark, it was pretty late at night, so I decided to crash and return to the streets of Paris in the morning. In those first 6 hours, I had all of the tutorial stuff done, had collected a few dozen Pokemon, my Tepig evolved into a Pignite, and I had gotten to rank X in the ZA Royale. Refreshed from a good night's sleep, I decided to set myself a couple of goals for what I wanted to get done in-game. When I started on day 2, my Pignite was only 10 levels away from becoming an Emboar, and I hadn't truly expanded my team yet. I mean, sure, I had caught just about everything I could, but I didn't have any Pokemon that I had committed to as a long-term team member. That means that goal number 1 was determining who I wanted on my team, which means I had to break down a little. You see, I have this tradition. Each time a new Pokemon game comes out, I try to make my team with as many new Pokemon as possible. Unfortunately, ZA doesn't have new Pokemon. Not even regional variants of old Pokemon. What it does have is new Mega Evolutions, and I didn't know what they were. I know the ones the trailers had shown off, Mega Dragonite, Victreebel, and Malamar, and I could assume that the starters would all Mega Evolve, but what about everything else? Without anything else to guide me, I did have to resort to Googling it and spoiling myself. Now, I was able to find a list online of only the Pokemon that got Megas, but it had no pictures on it. That way, I could at least be a little bit surprised when I Mega Evolve my Pokemon for the first time. I'm not going to reveal my whole team just yet. What I am going to do is tell you about what it took to find them. Once I had a few team members hard locked in my mind at least, I set off to scour the city and find at least one of them before I continued on with the main story. In a way, this detour kind of reminds me a lot of Pokemon X and Y. Assuming you wanted to add one new member to your party before every gym badge, you would have a really long time before you would have to commit to that second teammate. After getting the bug badge from Viola, you, the player, must go through 5 routes, one of them twice on 2 different parts of it, 3 separate towns, one of which being south of Lumiose, and 2 Zubat-infested caves to get to the second gym. There was a very great variety of Pokemon available on that vast slog through the Kalos region, so surely this slog through the Kalos region, I can find one new team member while traveling around one city before I decide to rank up next. And I was successful. The surprising thing is which team member I found first. I figured finding an Inkay wouldn't be that hard, and if I could, my other team members surely wouldn't be too difficult either. Most of them are pretty basic Pokemon. Surely one of them would be around somewhere. I'd have to look in every back alley and on every rooftop. And then I found it. Sitting on top of a discount restaurant was none other than Dratini? I found the pseudo-legendary first? I'm not complaining about that, I guess. I haven't used many pseudos over the years because they're normally not available until the late game, but this time around, I'm getting me a Dragonite early. And it ran away immediately. Crap. Luckily, the spawns do reset after a period of time, so after a couple more attempts and an alpha that I really tried hard to catch but couldn't because it was level 40 and wrecking my team, I finally caught my second team member. I ranked up to rank W without much of an issue, and before too long I got a call from Professor Mabel. She apparently has a special request from me in addition to all the ones she's already given me. I head over to her lab and find that she's got the 3 Kanto starters and offers one to me. Apparently, Sycamore told her to give them out to worthy trainers, but she feels like we're good enough to unload her homework on. I went ahead and picked Squirtle, since I used a Mega Blastoise in my first playthrough of Y way back when. I did not use Squirtle after this point. I went on an adorable hunt for Spupa in the Lumiose City Museum. A woman told me about a shiny Mareep that was spotted in Wild Zone 1, and I was able to catch it. I know shiny Mareep is now a shiny that anyone can get, but like, come on man, who isn't stoked about a free shiny? Then I beat up a waiter at the same discount restaurant where I caught my Dratini to rank up to rank V. After that, a strange black dog Pokemon appears and Emma calls me to chase after it. Upon catching up to it, Zygarde, I mean that's obviously who it is, I've played Pokemon before, hurls me to the top of a building where a strange glowing Absol is clearly not doing so hot. Emma shows up looking for Zygarde, but stops to look at the Absol. And then a Z shows up to the same party that we're at. He was apparently guided here by his Floette. He gives us a Mega Ring and lends us his Lucario. Why he has a Lucario? I do not know. I also know that people who've played Pokemon X and Y might be foaming at the mouth at the thought of another free Mega Lucario. Don't worry, this one's alright. Absol Mega evolves and we have to fight it with AZ's Lucario in our first Rogue Mega Evolution battle. These battles may be the game at its absolute best from a gameplay perspective. It has all the action and danger of the noble Pokemon battles of Legend Arceus mixed with the new real-time battle system. The Megas all have these big moves that can hit a much wider area than they would if they're from a regular Pokemon, and there's some real skill in memorizing their patterns, keeping your Pokemon alive, and knowing when to strike. This first Absol one is pretty easy, but it also is the first one. After we beat it, we get the Absolite and Absol joins our squad, and then we finally get to learn a bit about what is happening in this city. Tawny, Emma, and AZ are all working on this mystery of Rogue Mega Evolution. They say a certain company, which is highly likely to be Quasartigo, has more information than they do, and the only way to get it is to keep advancing in the ZA Royale. AZ, who was monitoring the Rogue Mega situation with Floette, recruited Emma and Tawny to investigate this. That's why Tawny formed Team MZ, to fight the Rogue Megas that are a threat to people, Pokemon, and themselves. The next day, Vinny calls Tawny and requests she brings us to a meeting. Tawny gives us a quick Mega Evolution tutorial where she shows she has a Mega Magnetric on hand, but I'm not interested in any of that because I have Pokemon to hunt. While I have yet to see their Megas as of the time I'm writing this, there are 2 Pokemon in the new wild areas that I want. In Wild Area 8, you can catch Drillbur, which evolves into the powerful Excadrill. Excadrill is a fine Pokemon. I've used it plenty of times in Pokemon Black and White, alongside Emboar. This time around, things are going to be different, because both of them can Mega Evolve. Excadrill isn't the only Gen 5 friend that I'm after though, because in Wild Zone 10, after dodging a menacing Alpha Sharpedo, I found a little pool full of Tynamo, which evolves into Electros, a super powerful electric type who is always a menace in a Black and White playthrough due to being both immune to ground from Levitate and having access to water moves like Surf. Even though abilities aren't in this game, the Electric Eel of Death is going to be on my side this time. I do a bit more exploration, catch some Alpha Pokemon I wasn't buff enough to beat earlier, help a woman take out the trash and realize that the best thing to bring people and Pokemon together is to know when to give each other space, then go to my meeting with Vinny. He's apparently very impressed with us beating that Mega Absol, and wants us to help him take on the Rogue Megas. Apparently, the Rogue Megas were why the ZA Royale was invented. AZ requested Quasartigo distribute Mega Rings to highly ranked trainers so they would be somebody to fight the rising threat. For defeating the Absol, he gives me and Tawny a special promotion match invite, fighting him directly. Naturally, I go and knock out my last couple of side quests before going to the battle zone and getting the challenger's ticket that I need to take him on. Meeting up with Vinny again, and it is time to battle. And I gotta admit, he is pretty tough. They even totally fake you out in this one. He has 4 Pokemon, and you know he's gonna Mega Evolve at some point in the fight. Will he Mega Evolve his Houndoom? No. Will it be his Sharpedo? No. His Baneri can't Mega Evolve until it evolves, but you know he's gonna do it and when he sends out his final Pokemon, it's a Grandpa? And then that Mega evolves. A new, never-before-seen Mega. It is absolutely wonderful to see. I've been wanting new Megas forever. After beating him up, he ranks us up to rank F. I was rank V before. I will admit, this mildly annoys me. I realize now, in retrospect, that I was definitely leveling up way too fast for me to be able to effectively do all 26 letter grades to reach rank A, but skipping 15 letters does seem like cheating us out of some fun battles. Vinny takes us inside of Quasartica, where he explains that the company has known about the issue of Rogue Megas for 2 years now. Apparently, AZ discovered it first, and went to them because they were in charge of the city redevelopment. Lumiose was crying out in pain. There's that oddly humanizing Lumiose language again. Vinny says that Mega Power has been accumulating in Lumiose for some reason that he doesn't know, and when the first Rogue Mega appeared, AZ tried to fight it off, but was getting too old for that. That makes me wonder if his immortality is starting to wear off after finally being forgiven by Floette after all these years. That's apparently where Tawny entered the picture and fought on AZ's behalf. With that story stuff out of the way, there is one more goal that I had in mind to complete today. I need to look cooler. I've been rocking was basically the default player outfit all game. The only thing I've done is remove the Milady hat and get slightly different colored jeans. But Paris is the capital of fashion. Only the best can defeat these Rogue Megas. In order to be the best, I must look my best. I've been putting this off for a while because, frankly, I was broke. I was trying to ration my early game money for more Pokeballs, but as is tradition for all Pokemon games at this point, now that I have some experience under my wing and I have left a trail of defeated trainers behind me, cash is now borderline meaningless. So let's go shopping! The customization options in this game are kind of crazy for a Pokemon game. There are so many options to pick from that you can mix and match, and for the first time, basically ever, the boys have just as many options as the girls. Pokemon X and Y introduced the concept of trainer customization, so it was only natural that the devs gave a lot of focus to it in this game as we return to Kalos, and it really shows. I still feel like the final getup that I put together is only scratching the surface of the options available to me. I found this cool orange Scizor jacket. I love steel types and orange is the main color of the channel, so it felt like an easy lock. After some hunting across the city, I think I've got a character that I'm pretty happy with. Now we're at the end point. We've come to the final hour of my 12-hour Legends ZA spree, and I spent about 20 minutes of it shopping, so I'll try and keep the rest of this pretty brief. Vinny contacts us with some info on Rogue Megas spotted in the city. We meet up with the rest of Team MZ to discuss how to handle it and split the 3 Megas across the 3 team members. And naturally, us, as the 4th member, will have to go to each one to be backup muscle, i.e., so we actually have to do the thing. We have to fight a Mega Camerupt, Mega Slowbro, and Mega Victreebel. The Victreebel fight was pretty tough, but that was likely because I still wasn't used to how Rogue Mega Evolution battles worked just yet. Luckily, before I left Hotel Z, AZ gave me an Emborite, so my Embor can Mega Evolve, and boy, don't he look fancy. He's clearly going all in on the Journey to the West vibes, and I love it. Regardless, I was able to beat those 3 Megas, and accidentally might have ticked off a Mega Construction Worker in the process, which rounds out my final hour of gameplay. Overall, what are my thoughts on Legends ZA? How does it stack up against my expectations and the Pokemon series as a whole? Honestly, it is some of the best Pokemon has ever been. It isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I mentioned a few flaws I had. Mastering the real-time battles will definitely take some work, and I would have liked to climb up the ranks a bit more than I actually get to do. One thing I didn't mention is the ancestor problem. Part of the fun of Legends ZA was seeing all these characters who were related to characters we already knew. ZA doesn't really seem to have those, at least not to the same degree. There might be more in the higher ranks, but the ones I've seen so far are few and far between. I mean, I've mentioned basically all of them in this video already. However, all of that is fairly minor in comparison to everything else this game has to offer. The exploration available in Lumiose is incredible, and that was legitimately one of my biggest fears about the game. I was certain that hemming us into only one city would be incredibly limiting, and it really doesn't. After 12 hours in this city, I'm still not tired of it, and I know there's still a lot more to discover. The gameplay is going to be interesting for old fans and new. It provides a challenge to those who've been saying Pokémon is too easy for years, while also not feeling insurmountable like some fan-made content that tries to rectify that issue does. I might have to reevaluate this placing after I get through the rest of the story, but I think in my own personal rankings, I'd rank Legends ZA only slightly below Legends Arceus, namely because I haven't been able to discover much new lore yet. But if I'm being fair and objective, as a game, Legends ZA is better than Legends Arceus. I really can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. It just functions as a game better than the previous title, and it's really just great to see. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I did. Now, if you will excuse me, I gotta get back to Lumiose. Yeah.